roles of education and personal cultivation. Role of those education and personal cultivation basically is instill in people the Confucian virtues and talent. You don't learn those things by yourself. You need to go through the long process to be educated, to be taught the right things, right behavior, the virtue. So the role of education and personal cultivation is also to foster a strong sense of a filial piety to your parents, to ancestors, to all the people who are older than you. Also try to promote a sense of duty to the state and the ruler because they are in a higher order than you are. Okay. Also, everyone is expected to be ready to serve as the government officials to uphold benevolent rule. So education is regarded as extremely important way to instill in people this set of values and virtues. And Confucius actually was regarded as the first teacher in China. And this is a big writing from that reflects Confucius' ideas. And these four character states we should teach everyone regardless of who he is. Confucius was known to charge very little money to students when he teach his students. So he was regarded as a great teacher, and in a traditional time when the school opened the first day, people first kowtow to a portrait of Confucius. Here I have two pictures. Well, I want to use this picture to illustrate what kind of cultivation are respected, what kind of practice not respected or looked down upon. Here, the picture on the left shows that the personal cultivation in intellectual and artistic pursuits are highly admired because those kind of pursuits are regarded as have a strong role of uplifting a person's virtues and also a sense of righteous behavior. But also picture on the right show people in a business. The pursuits in business and commerce are really looked down upon because they involve selfish material gain motivations. All the calculations for the purpose of personal selfish gain. And this kind of behavior was looked down upon by within the Confucius tradition. Transformation of Confucianism into a conservative perspective. Now, all these ideas, all these notions of personal obligations, duty to the family, and duty to the rulers, actually serve the ruling class interests very well. And they are also seen as, those notions are seen as conforming to the natural order. Because in the ancient China, they had these notions of heaven versus earth. Heaven is higher and earth is lower. Now they begin to attach this kind of natural order to the order that you find in human society between the father and the son, between the men and women, all seem to as follows the natural order. If that is natural order, and they begin to see that the concept of Ren, Yi, and Li can be interpreted as heaven's will, and to justify the feudal autocratic ruling. So now you can really see that the ruling class all of a sudden realize, hey, this set of ideas really good for them they can really sustain their ruling. Confucius lived in a time of chaos, in a worrying time, and a lot of bloodshed, a lot of fighting. When he brought his set idea to different rulers, they want them to follow his idea to restore social order. nobody really listened to him, because that is a time of war. And when you have a time of war, you need to have strong army, you need to have a strong fighting powers. But now, when Confucius brought this idea of being nice, loud to them, it doesn't make sense to them. And so nobody listened to him. And they respect him as a big scholar, as a great teacher, but in terms of the practicality of this idea of being loud, being nice to being benevolent rulers, nobody really following him. They want a strong power as much as possible, fighting power. That is what they want. But long after the death of Confucius, when it comes to the Han Dynasty, the ruling class all of a sudden realized that, hey, these kind of ideas are nice and good for us, good for them. So eventually, Confucianism was adopted during the Han Dynasty as official ideology. And from that point on, it also had very long-lasting influence in later dynasties. It also have become very influential cultural tradition in Japan, Korea, and Vietnam due to very frequent cultural exchange between China and all these countries. Confucianism also had a strong impact in later generations. The intellectual prowess was emphasized in promotion for civil service at the expense of practical skills, technology, science, and creativity. So those skills that emphasize practicality, emphasize creativity, hands-on things that look down upon. They really emphasize the pursuit of academic activity, and arts, and the literature, and the politics. Those are what was emphasized, especially when it comes to promotion in civil service. And also, modest living and refraining from material desires were promoted as human virtues. And there are various personal etiquettes and ethic codes emerge to constrain personal freedom. And they believe that those codes somehow help generate appropriate behavior, appropriate conduct. Now, here we have two pictures. The picture on the left shows during the ancient times that chastity gates were erected in honor of widows who remain unmarried and thus loyal to their deceased husband. So that is built this chastity gates for those unmarried and women who remain unmarried in order to honor their deceased husband. And that is to honor those appropriate behavior. Also, you see the food binding was practiced in ancient China since the Song Dynasty. This kind of practice actually is constrained women's freedom, but it was promoted as small feet are beautiful, small feet are seen as a sign of beauty. Confucianism in modern times. During the 19th century, China was defeated by quite a few Western powers. As a result, many intellectuals and politicians in China blame Confucianism for China's defeat by the Western power, and also blame Confucianism for the decline in strength of China during the modern times, because they believe that Confucianism de-emphasized science, technology, business, and also democracy. And the whole thing is very backward. And during the communist China from 1949 until 1976, Confucianism was criticized as a feudal and backward ideology. Should it be cast away? Should it be discarded? Or should it be criticized? But since 1976, there's a great degree of kind of loosening the rule of society by the Chinese authority in China, and therefore a lot of old ideas was reassessed. As a result, the Confucianism has been revived as an academic research field, and also propagated as a representative of the traditional Chinese value, the traditional Chinese culture. So now they began to uphold a lot of ideas from Confucianism, from the traditional Chinese culture. And since 2004, Chinese government began to financially sponsor some Confucius Institute in many countries as a way to manage cultural exchange with host countries. And this is a one-sided wall in the U.S. Supreme Court building. On this side of the wall, you can see the figure in the middle is Moses, and the person to the right of Moses is Confucius. So Confucius was put on the building of the U.S. Supreme Court, and he was regarded as one of the greatest lawmakers in the world history by the U.S. government. So in summary, in this lecture, we discuss founders and major contributors of Confucianism. We also discuss origin of Confucianism as effort by Confucius and many other scholars to find ways to end chaos and restore social order at the time. His core ideas can be summarized as three words that reflect a set of ethics and institutions to maintain order and harmony. In terms of the role of education and personal cultivation, they provide the basis for the Chinese culture to weigh heavily in education. So we know many Chinese parents invest greatly in the education of their children. The Confucianism is one of the important sources for this practice. Transformation of Confucianism into a conservative perspective that really reflects the role of a traditional culture in sustaining the traditional order. Confucianism in modern times, it first was denunciated, then also later on has been revived. Thank you very much. I see you next time. Goodbye.